Hello, I'm Ben. Welcome to the channel. So today, you can tell by the thumbnail of the video, we're going to talk about Gemba walks and what those are specifically and what they're used for. If you're in manufacturing, but you don't have to be manufacturing. A lot of this stuff started in manufacturing but can be spread across all business. Because it is really about best practices and reducing waste. And you can do that in any business if you use these appropriately. I've used these in the healthcare field, in restaurants, in retail stores. There's always something that can be seen. And when OSHA comes into play, a lot of times Gemba Walk can address OSHA issues, etc. That has to do with larger businesses and manufacturing typically. But we'll go into this and kind of explain what this is. This obviously is going to be the thumbnail, so you can take a picture of that and expand. So you can look into some of this for yourself. I do these professionally. I do OSHA reviews professionally. I do address this for companies that I work for. And typically this is part of a 6S or a 5S process in lean manufacturing. So this document that's in place as the thumbnail kind of tells you the purpose. Document explains how to perform an effective Gemba walk, visiting an actual place where things happen. So it has to be a facility where things are getting done. The purpose is reviewing that status of work, the availability of people, the conditions of the machines and the environment, and the performance of processes. The majority of these are done to address a process and a safety of an environment. That's what I did majorly when I was in the business of manufacturing for nearly a decade. So the benefits include understanding the current reality. And that's important because as a business owner, you have a reality that you expect and you have the operation situation that as it is. And we've used that before in other videos. But the reality sometimes does not represent what it's supposed to look like on paper. So this is to create that understanding, capture that information for better decisions, connecting with your people and driving processes that improve safety, production, and performance. So the first thing is to define purpose. You want to define the reason why you're going to go to Gemba. And it's clear what you're looking for. So examples are opportunity for discovery, waste identification, maturity assessment, the root cause analysis of an issue with the focus on specific performance gaps, customer complaints, process delays, process failures or non-compliance. And the more specific the purpose, the more effective the Gemba walk can be. You want to clearly define the why because that's where you're starting from, okay? And also, when you're documenting the why and you're going through this process of a Gemba walk, you're going to be doing this to answer a question, and then that's going to be relayed to the end user, being the customer or the performance or production teams or those that were above the team up to and including the president of the company or the COO. So you're going to inform the group. You make people feel comfortable and open to the upcoming interactions. You want people to be truthful and honest. You explain how the Gemba walk works rather. Try to say that 2 times fast. What is expected from them and how they will benefit from the outcome. For example, we are walking the site to find obstacles to your daily work so we can improve our processes and eliminate double handling and waiting times. And as you know, double handling, rework, and waiting times, that's all types of muta, which is waste. We will be asking many questions, not to find anyone at fault. And that's the biggest piece about a Gemba walk, okay? I've done these at places where people don't try to get in the way, and it's a much better learning environment. And I've done these at places where people are trying to find fault. And at places where people are trying to find fault, then it's a negative place that's toxic anyway, and the actual participation of this walk is not going to be true because people aren't going to want to be found in fault of something. So it creates dishonesty, it creates bias, it's not real. So you want to inform the group so you have specific expectations, and you're ultimately trying to understand why things happen. So when you do that, you explain it, you say when it's going to happen so people expect it and they know what's going on when it's there, and they know it's not because you're trying to find fault or something that anyone did wrong. Next, you select the participants. That basically helps define the purpose and scope. People on the ground, the folks in the trenches, know what's going on. So that's why you want to include those participants. And sometimes they'll volunteer, sometimes they have to be voluntold because you want the real data. You don't want what's supposed to be happening. You want the actual real world situation. Next, you walk the value stream. That means you look at the area, you go with the flow. You do it in the order that things actually happen or the work takes place, the form that follows function. So you spot hat spots, which means walking the value chain in the flow direction. So where raw material is put in, you start there and you go through the process chain up to the finished good and to the final handling and support to storage or delivery of that finished good. You go through all that. You always involve the people who know what those areas are and what happens best, such as supervisors, lead operators, and asking them for the input to verify hot spots that have been covered or workarounds that people do. And then you also want to work with line workers and see if there's anything that the supervisors are not telling you, because the supervisors and foremen are held to a certain expectation. Lead operators are held to a certain expectation. So they might not be completely honest, because there may be things that they're allowing that they're not supposed to allow. And once again, you're not trying to find fault. You're trying to fix the process so these workarounds aren't necessary, and the workflow itself is the smoothest, safest stream there possibly is. You want to focus on the process, not on behavior. So you want to find failures rather in the process, not try to find fault in behavior. So read through that, number 5. The purpose is to be observant and understand and improve the processes and improve the systems. That's the point of the Gemba walk. It's not an employee performance evaluation. I see too many people that screw that up. You're not doing this to correct employees. You do that through your disciplinary process and through your expectation around your expectation of work or your normal work or your standard of work. Standard of work procedures are kind of the basics for every position. You should have that. It should be documented. It should be written down. So when you hire a teammate and you're training that teammate for a role, that standard of work can be explained, and they can have documents that show that not only did they understand it, they were trained against it. There should be different slots that shows how they went through the training, and there should be a final sign-off saying that they understand they're responsible to act in a responsible manner and do so in observance of the training. So that's the purpose of the disciplinary process. So don't make that part of this. This is the focus on process, not behavior. You're documenting observations. You ask to understand, you don't assume. That's extremely important. I'll see people go to all these efforts to do a proper Gemba walk, and then they start making assumptions in the areas where you're trying to make the corrections. You don't make assumptions. You watch the situation and see what result it gets. If you're not sure that it's going to produce that several times, then you watch it for a set period of time. You take that set period of time, and then you go into how many defects or how many failures you have, how many system failures or stoppages you have, or whatever the metric is you're measuring, and you document those things. Then you go back at a different time and observe to see if that same situation is replicatable. If it is, then it shows that you have a process issue. You can have shifts that perform differently, that you have an issue on one shift that you don't have in another, but your performance and your metrics should show you that, and it'll tell you to where to look at. So remember, it's the CPOC framework. It provides a solid structure for asking questions during a Gemba walk, and it's spelled SIPOC. Supplier is who's involved. Do you get what you need? Input is what materials and information are used. Process is what do you do? When do you do it and how do you do it? And then how do you know? That's all process. Output is what result are you getting to? Is it a good result? That's what I mentioned previously. Is it a good result? Is there an issue? Is it a defective issue? Is there a time issue? Are you inside the constraints and expectations? And the final piece, that C, is customer. Who needs the outcome? Is the customer satisfied? A lot of times when you do a Gemba walk, it may be customer related. It could be around a quality issue, or it could be around a standardization issue where the customer has a standard that they expect and the product itself is not meeting that expectation. It could be either one of those. During a Gemba walk, and I go back to that key word, during a Gemba walk, you're trying to observe. You're not trying to fix. I know I say all the time that whatever you don't address, you just approved. But in a Gemba walk, it's not time to fix the situation. You're going to want to try to do that. But especially like what I mentioned, if it's 3 shifts, you're going to want to observe the same failure across all 3 shifts. And then you know you have something that you have to engineer out because the process is severely broken. So you want to observe, you don't want to fix. You want things to happen in their natural space, in the natural real world, and that will give you the best observation and opportunity for understanding. Not action. That's not what you're trying to do. Then you're going to use a phase of DMAC, which we've talked about that before. I've done a short on it. I did a video around lean. That's define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. Define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. That is going to be what you implement as an improvement process. After discussing the findings with the stakeholders, only then can you decide what you want to do in the do phase of the process, which is when you put in those DMAC principles. And that's when you're trying to get a defined problem you're fixing, a measure weight in going about fixing it, analyze the results from each different step, improve upon those steps, and control the environment so you can continue to replicate that. And you take that through as many cycles as you need to until you get to the desired result. And if the desired result's not reached and you have to do a different Gemba walk to try to better improve that situation, then you do that. So that is what you're doing. You're observing, not fixing. You fix in the do stage. Next piece is communicate the next steps. After a Gemba walk, you want to share the learnings, communicate the next steps. You want to let your people know what's going to be happening, the plan part, that PDCA, which is plan, do, check, act. So each time you put a plan in place and you do the DMAC principle, you want to see where that is. You want to do a stop, set, restart, and then you'll upgrade each time with that plan, do, check. Each time you complete a cycle of doing something new or different, that do, the validating is its impact, that's the check, and embedding improvements, that's the act, creating a real value from the Gemba walk. By closing the PDCA management loop, people see that their voices count. I've said in many, many videos, if you want a person to feel motivated and empowered, they have to see that their voice counts. They have to see that you respond and react appropriately to do that and support their resolution. And if you're supporting their resolution through something like this and it was their idea, they're going to be extremely motivated to champion that idea. So this part around the communication of next steps is extremely important, and it has to be communicated to the entire team, because you're going to have people that are motivated by the findings because they participated in that to get that result. So that's extremely important part of a Gemba walk, is communicating the next steps. And the final piece is return and repeat. A Gemba walk is a series of improvements that are broken down into smaller series. So you always want to return and repeat. And basically the observations of what you put in place should show you what's been improved and what the obstacles or opportunities still are. So that's a brief review of what a Gemba walk is. Obviously, I will put this as the thumbnail of the video so you can study that yourself and come up with what your thoughts are around that. And that is the Gemba walk. If you like information like this and subjects such as these, please like and subscribe. We'll keep bringing you this type of information because it's the stuff I enjoy. It's the stuff that I've done professionally, and I've done it professionally because I find it enjoyable. And also, I'm very much into building teams, and this allows teams to participate in improving their environment, which makes them feel motivated and in control, and that's how you build a career teammate. So hopefully this was useful to you. I'm Ben. Be good.